Okay, Mark, we're on our last one, and I think it's something that we see time and time again, and it's a huge frustration, not just to us, but also to the client and the people that we want to collaborate with. We call it the business change freeze. So talk to us about how that tends to play out, why it does, and then what our recommendations would be.
Yeah, and I think this one is the culmination of a number of the challenges that we talked about already. This is where people end up. This is the end game. In that, if you've got a large transformation program where new functionality is being built over months or maybe years, right? One of the first questions, well, maybe not the first question, but one of the critical milestone questions that comes up is saying, do we go big bang or do we go for a staged delivery? Right, and everyone wants to avoid big bang because of the risk that's associated with it. If any of the integration partners are saying, well, it's the only option to go big bang, then I would really scrutinize and questioning their reasoning around that. So what becomes abundantly obvious through any transformation problem is that there's going to be some need for coexistence of old and new. You're going to need to gradually stage the rollout of the new functionality, right? So it becomes really, really important then to come up with a strategy for how that should work. I've seen a lot of transformation projects dictate to the business that we're going to need to freeze business logic. We can't, satisfy new initiatives while we're changing this system. So, how long is it appropriate to change, to freeze what you're delivering to the business? Well, in sort of the digital age, if you're not changing and improving, your competitors will, and your customers will go elsewhere. So it is absolutely important that this, again, is considered as one of the key success factors of any transformation program. The ability to not freeze the business initiatives, to be able to change things as you're implementing the new technologies, to be able to roll out functionality gradually so that you don't have a big bang. And I think that, this is one of the answers that you need early on in the program. How are you going to do this? And we've worked on many kind of legacy transformation programs, and it's not one size fits all. There are some great patterns, there are some great techniques to do this, but ultimately some design and thought needs to go into your specific problems and products. Yeah. You've got to identify what the biggest risks are early on, and you've got to have an architecture that allows the old and new to coexist. So I see some programs where they set a separate stream for coexistence, but it's decoupled. So the team who are building the new system, don't worry about the coexistence. That's another team. And then what that becomes is an integration problem then. That's one of the integration systems, whereas actually that shouldn't be the way it is. So for instance, we did a solution where we evolved the UI of one of our customer-facing systems that we wrote. And it was written probably just 6 years ago, the UI, on a technology called Oracle Jet, one of the early JavaScript toolkits that was all-encompassing. It would deal with, integrating to the database. It would have visualization libraries and allow you to do everything in one place, a bit similar to the likes of what Angular would do. And as we were evolving and we wanted more visualizations and a better user experience, it was identified that we were reaching the boundaries of what we could do as a team within that technology. So we wanted to move across to the latest JavaScript front-end technologies, React and Next.js. So the first thing we did, rather than saying, well, we're going to do this set of screens and you're going to have the old set of screens working with the new set of screens, and there might be a clunky user experience. We did a little mini project, a little POC, a Spike, to say, how do we deal with coexistence first of all? How can we get a common look and feel that can evolve to the new innovations that we want? how do we share states between these systems? How do we share all the logging and auditing? So we did a POC that proved that these could coexist, but also proved that every single developer on the team would know how to use the old and the new. Even if they weren't trained in Jet, they could interface to Jet as if it was a React component. So they had the ability to change the old system, change the new system, and we could evolve it, over time. Yeah. We also introduced at that point feature flagging to our solutions so that the solution could be switched from old to new, so that we had more confidence of incrementally rolling that out and rolling it out when it was ready. So things would be in production with the new React screens, fully tested against the production infrastructure, but would only get switched on once the whole set of screens, the journey was consistent for that. So, this is a good example where treating coexistence as a really important factor up front and designing for it and coming up with a solution and proving things can coexist properly rather than having it as a separate stream, is absolutely essential for any legacy transformation.
Yeah, I think the whole de-risking element, again, wearing the stakeholder hat, just is so sensical, right? And we see time and time again, I won't call anybody out, but if you look at the local authority scene, how often do we see local authorities going bankrupt because of a big program that's just cost 100 million, and it's because they've not gone through the staging, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and what one software architecture component that we always consider and we always question, is there anything can we do on that? It's something I call scaffolding within the application. So if you've got a legacy system or a legacy database or a legacy set of services or UI, and you want to introduce some new technologies to that, you want to upgrade it, there may often be coding that you want to do on that legacy system to build an integration layer or to make it fit better with the new technologies. And you shouldn't shy away from opening up that legacy system and writing an adapter or writing something that allows you to have the state in a certain format that allows you to use that in the new system. And it's like putting on scaffolding in a building to make sure that doesn't break while you're building your extension or whatever. So I think that's really important. It's really undervalued, and that is what allows then you to have joint teams of developers who know the old technology with the new technology working together. That's their integration layer, their common language. And again, any legacy transformation project that only has skills in the team in the new technology and is treating the old technology as a black box, that's a recipe for failure, really. You want a joint team, people who can look at the old technology, look at the new technology. We've written a few tools to help bridge that gap, to help come up with integration layers, to help. We've written a tool that helps our JavaScript and TypeScript developers to interrogate and understand PL/SQL logic in the database so that they can identify areas where business logic is implemented at the wrong layer and generate our TypeScript and JavaScript code to implement that correctly and to keep the interaction with the database at a SQL level rather than, tying a lot of the business logic to it. So there's a few tools in most companies' arsenal to be able to deal with that. But the most important factor is, assume that you cannot freeze that business. You cannot go big bang and work that into the plan, how you're going to prove that coexistence.
No, that's brilliant. And I think we're all out of rope there, but I think we have given some very realistic and structured answers to what those problems have been in the last couple of weeks in those conversations. So my head hurts a little bit, but thanks for your time, Mark. And I think for anybody watching or listening who's going through those issues right now or trying to work them out or has gone through them in the past, we've said there's not just one way to skin a cat. So it'd be great to hear about your approaches or your current issues. You'll find Mark Simpson on LinkedIn. You'll find myself, Reuben Boughton, on LinkedIn. So feel free to reach out and engage, even in the comments here. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for your time again, Mark, and I look forward to chatting again in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, thanks, Reuben.